I'm going to give you information about constellation that's in your course book on chapter 11.2, and the title is Starry Skies. So please take some important notes for you to answer the questions later. Enjoy watching! Today we'll be answering the question, what are constellations? Throughout time, people have looked up the night stars with imagination. In the past, our ancestors thought that the patterns in the stars were designed to reflect some of their heroes, gods, and goddesses, and even stories that passed on from generation to generation. Today, we call this star cluster and patterns constellation. As we developed better and better telescopes and society progressed, astronomers realized that the mythical creatures and God were actually a group of stars. By 1925, the organization called International Astronomical Union established 88 constellations that would officially be recognized by all astronomers. If you look at some of the constellations, you might have a problem actually trying to figure out what our ancestors actually thought they were. As you look at this part of the sky, you can't quite tell what you're looking at. What do you think is it? The idea of constellation is a kind of connected dots concept. Even though when you draw a line, the shapes don't look anything like the creatures. Constellations were drawn with an imaginary boundary or outline, and this can be used to identify them. Constellations are a group of stars in a particular pattern as seen from Earth. If you went to another planet, for example, you wouldn't actually see the same constellation. In fact, you would have actually see a total different pattern of group of stars. The stars are actually completely different locations from each other, and if you look at it from the three-dimensional point of view, we can see that some of the stars are nowhere near each other, but seen from the Earth or a different perspective, they line up perfectly to show the constellation. It's very similar to a perspective piece of art from one angle. It can completely random, but from the right perspective, everything lines up and the picture is created. Since the Earth is moving around the Sun, we see all the constellations in the sky at various points. In the past, people actually used this information to tell the seasons from one another. Many of these people actually use constellation to actually map and build structures. To understand this constellation, and this was to observe and understand the movement of the constellations. In some cases, these maps were actually built to alert them when there was a change in the season. For example, when winter turned into spring. Almost every advanced culture around the world used constellation, and also navigating the oceans constellation were actually used to help ships from one location to another. The crew members of the ship knew how to read constellation so that they could change course based on the pattern of the stars and where they were in the sky. There were lots of famous constellations. For example, Orion, Leo, Gemini, the Big Dipper, and the Little Dipper. But because we all live in various parts of the planet, we actually see constellations in different places in the sky. The names of these constellations have actually stayed in the past. This is simply because it's a bit of a tradition and they've already been established as these names. Even though some of them don't really look like what they're trying to describe because it doesn't really look like a lion. But in the modern astronomy, it's just a great way to navigate around the night sky, and for a beginner in astronomy, it's just a really good way to get used to how the night sky looks, even though the most of it is just simply dots and lines. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you understand our lesson well. If you have any questions, you may ask me through WhatsApp. Stay safe and stay healthy. Bye!